is America to me? A name, a map,
or the
a certain word, it's liberty.
that is America to me. House I live in, a plot of earth, the street, the grocer and the butcher, for the people that I meet, the children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races and religions, that's America to me.
The place I work in, the worker at my side, the little town or city where my people lived and died, the howdy and the handshake, the air of feeling free, and the right to speak my mind out, that's America to me.
Whenever freedom's threatened, it means much more to me.
The right to raise our children and live as we believe.
We know we must defend her
Before she disappears,
preserve the dream that has survived for over 200 years. The house we live in, the good things everywhere.
a land of wealth and beauty, with enough for all to share.
A nation blessed by heaven, a land of liberty, and of freedom-loving people.
That's America to me.
The spirit of freedom and liberty lies in the hearts of all nations, a spirit that declares that all people should be free of tyranny and oppression, a spirit required by all men to know and understand their natural God-given rights. From the beginning of time and throughout history, men and women have cried out and fought to champion the cause of freedom, the individual worth of man, and the protection of their rights. The incredible, miraculous beginning of America is a story of conflict, struggle, passion, and a desire of a people wanting to be free.
America, we are thy sons, and we shall keep thee free. For in our veins there flows the blood of Washington and Lee. No foreign flag upon thy sod shall we allow to stand. No iron shackles from abroad shall touch thy foot or hand. They mock thy armies, say 'tis small, thy navy too they scorn. Have they forgot the laurels won since freedom here was born? They say thy untrained citizens will never soldiers be. Have they forgot those valiant men who fought in '63? America, thy sons are true, and if thou wilt but call, 10 million men will give to thee their homes, their lives, their all. For thou dost stand for what is right, for freedom of the seas. God grant Old Glory may always float, forever in the breeze. Freedom! 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 Freedom isn't free.
it's not something handed down to you. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. You gotta pay the price. You gotta sacrifice for your liberty. There was a general by the name of George, small and a man had valley force. From the comfort of home, for the cold and ice, they won independence 'cause they paid the price. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. You gotta pay the price. You gotta sacrifice for your liberty. Some people freedom is a lazy life. To your own will is an automatic life. Every man's freedom's the eternal quest. Free to give humanity your very best. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. You gotta pay the price. You gotta sacrifice for your liberty. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. Free.
Freedom is a God-given gift, promising life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for every person. But freedom is not easy to come by, and it is never free. It usually comes with a price, and that price can be that of one's own life. In the early 1400s, Saint Joan of Arc, heroine of France, cried out as she tried to champion the cause of freedom, and boldly, at age 17, led the French army. When Joan was just 13 years old, she heard a voice calling her to deliver France from England, and boldly and heroically convinced the King of France to make her the military leader of their armies. Let's journey back into history and meet this young heroine.
Joan, you shall put on masculine clothes, for you are she who has been chosen by the King of Heaven to restore the kingdom of France and to aid and protect King Charles, who has been driven from his domain. You will accomplish miraculous things.
I stood in awe. I knew that what I'd heard was real, but I didn't even know how to ride a horse, let alone lead an army into battle. With great determination, I departed from my home forever. After much scrutiny and rigorous examination by the king, I was finally granted my desire to lead the French army into battle.
Know all men that the illustrious Charles, King of France, by the grace of God, is pleased to confer upon his well-beloved servant, Joan of Arc, the title, emoluments, and authorities of General-in-Chief of the armies of France.
Now that I had the blessings of God and knighthood, I felt confident, energetic, and I seemed to have a great endurance for fatigue. Sometimes, when all seemed lost and my men were exhausted and discouraged, I went off to pray. I'm just a girl, barely old enough to leave my family, but I know you've chosen me. I must be brave, but I must confess that I am so afraid, as my men are losing faith. Lord, give me strength. Lord, give me courage as this young girl in armor fights against the foe. Lord, please have mercy. Lord, give me power.
I'm tired and discouraged, wondering what we're fighting.
Young girl in armor fights against the foe.
Lord, please have mercy. Lord, give us power. Renew our conviction. Help our confidence grow.
Men, take courage. God is with us as we fight this war. See your banner wave before us, showing what we're fighting for.
What we're fighting for home,
For our families, for God and liberty. Lead us onward into battle, all our faithfully policing thee. My sacred banner filled my men with confidence, and they were renewed to achieve the impossible. The victory was close at hand, and my men followed me with my indomitable courage as we charged over the walls of our enemies. The English, thinking they were safe, found themselves under attack, in front and in back. But now into battle we triumphantly go. Follow me!
But despite the attack on May 26, 1430, Joan was captured. She was imprisoned and kept in heavy chains for months. She was accused of witchcraft and of following the devil after miraculously surviving an arrow wound. Her freedom would be granted only upon her denial of the voices. Nothing would change her mind, and she stood by her testimony. The fires were ignited around the stake, and they gave her one more time to recant.
Every man gives his life for what he believes. Every woman gives her life for what she believes. Some people believe in little or nothing, and yet they give their lives to that little or nothing. One life is all we have. We live it as we believe in living it, and then it's gone. But to surrender what you are and live without belief is more terrible than dying.
Do you hear the people singing the songs of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again.
When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Beyond the barricade, is there a world you want to see? Enjoy the fight that will give you the right to be free. Hear the people singing the songs of angry men. It is the music of the people who will not be slaves again. When the music of your heart is the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. Give all you can give, so that's how a banner may advance. Some will hold and some will hit. Will you stand up and take your chance? The blood of the martyrs will water the meadows of France. Hear the people singing the songs of angry men. It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again. When the beating of your heart echoes the beating of the drums, there is a life about to start when tomorrow comes. For freedom!
We hear the cries of angry men from around the world. This time, the cries are coming from the Dutch in the 1500s when they were under attack by the Spaniards. These poor Dutch people suffered many atrocities by the Spaniards. They had been taxed unjustly. Their property had been seized, and many had been thrown in prison. And not only that, thousands had been burned at the stake for simply reading their Bible. Peter van der Werf was the burgermeister, and he did everything in his power to rescue the Dutch people and their land from the cruel bonds of oppression. But the people were starving, and thousands had already died. The few remaining were surviving on cats, rats, and dogs. Babies were dying in their mother's arms, disease was rampant, and dead bodies were everywhere. Despite their longings for freedom, some began to beg the burgermeister to give up.
Would you have me surrender? I have taken an oath to hold this city. May God give me strength to keep it. Here, soldier. Take my sword. Plunge it into my body. Divide my flesh to appease your hunger, if you will. But God so help me, I will never surrender. You call us rat eaters. We are. But so long as you hear a dog bark inside these walls, you may know that the city holds out. We will eat our left arms, and we will fight with our right. And when we have strength no longer, we will set fire to the city and perish in the flames, rather than give up our liberty. David walked into the valley with a stone clutched in his hand. He was only a boy, but he knew someone must take a stand. There will always be a valley, always mountains one must scale. There will always be perilous waters which someone must sail. Into valleys, into waters, into jungles, into hell. Let us ride home again with a story to tell. Yes, yes. Into darkness, into danger, into storms that rip. Yes. Don't give up, but give thanks for the glorious fight. Yes, give thanks to our God. You can tremble, you can feel it, but keep your fighting spirit alive, boys. Let the shiver and sting you. Fling into battle. Spring to your feet, boys. Never hold back your step for a moment. Never doubt your girth will grow. Hold your head even higher as into the fire we go. Men, if we don't stand for something, then we'll fall for anything. Are there mountains that surround us? Are there walls that block the way? Knock them down! Come back, boys! And forward and into the fray. Into terror, into valor, charge ahead. No! Turn. Yes, it's into the fire we fly, and our devil will burn. Someone has to make the valley rush in. We have to rally and win, boys. When the world is saying not to, and when they've got to march on, boys. Never hold back your step for a moment. The courage will grow. Hold your head even higher as into the fire we go. Let the light fight, let the flash of it stop. Yes, like lightning. Yes, yes, yes. Let the fever spike, let the force of it rock. Yes. We will have our day, sailing into the fire. Yes, our day, men. Men, it is better to die as free men than to live in a world of tyranny. Someone has to face the valley, and destroy. That's when the two are done, boys. Never hold back your step for a moment. Never. as it's higher and higher, as into the fire we go into fire. Onward,
At the turn of the 16th century, we hear another cry for freedom. We take you to a region called Scrooby, England. In those days, everyone, rich or poor, had to belong to the Church of England. Rejecting the doctrines of the Church of England was a crime punishable by prison or even death. The separatists sold their homes and most of their possessions, only to be caught, robbed for the few things that they had left, and thrown into dungeons or forced to live in the streets. These compassionate, freedom-loving people did all they could to keep their dreams of the promised land alive. They just wanted a different kind of life, a place where their children would be cherished, a place they could call their own.
Long ago and far away,
Before the world had come to this,
I took for granted how my life would be, assuming that my freedom would be free. Before these evening shadows fell,
I reveled in the light of day.
I rarely ever cried, my patience wasn't tried, and heroes never died. But if I had my way, things would be different. Danger wouldn't come from the sky of blue. Choices would be clear, strangers would be kinder. This is what I pray if I had my way.
This isn't fair.
Merry old England for the rich, but we, the poor and scrooby, have only but
We work and we slave for this social elite. We have rats on our backs, forced to beg in the streets. It's hard for us to understand. Please, Lord, take us by the hand and lead us to a place of Why should we endure such moral decay? Our children are taunted and tempted to stray. It's hard for us to understand. Please, Lord, take us by the hand and lead us to a place where we can be free. A place of our danger would come, sky of blue. Angels would appear, children would be cherished, hope would never perish, faith would not betray. If I had my way. We can do this. We got this. We'll be okay. You'll see. It'll be just fine. We can make this work, right? A place of our own, far from tyranny's hand. Blessed by God's only grace, is there such a land? We've got to get out. Please, God, help us flee. And land a new world where we can. It's merry old England for the rich, but for the poor and scrooby. It's time to take a stand. Please, God.
Finally, in the late summer of 1608, the Scrooby separatists reached Holland. Though the air was supercharged with energy and excitement, it was not the kind of life they were looking for. The separatists refused to let their children be taught the ways of the liberal Dutch. The expectations for a newfound freedom ignited the fire in their hearts. So they left their homes to board a crowded ship, crossed a vast ocean, and sailed to the promised land of America.
Free, only want to be free. We've huddled close, hang on to a dream.
Stand on the train, we're coming to America. Never looking back again. We're coming to America.
Seems so far away, we're traveling light today. In the eye of a storm, in the eye of a
Anchors away! We're on our way.
Everywhere around the world, we're coming to America.
Every time that flags unfurl, we're coming to America. Got a dream to take us there. We're coming to America. Got a dream we've come to share. We're coming to America.
We're coming to America.
Today,
We're coming to America.
today,
We're coming to America.
today, we're coming to America. Today.
Tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
Of the I sing. Today.
Coming to America.
Our new home in America, here we come, America.
We're coming to America. There's freedom in America. Our new home in America. We're coming to America today. Today. America today.
The first half of the voyage was rather smooth, but then they were faced with bad storms. Sickness and even death set in, and it became doubtful that they would even make it to America. And when they finally landed, they had nothing but their faith to sustain them.
Our fathers call to thee, author of liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our lands be bright with freedom's only light. Protect us by thy might, great Lord our King.
The colonists were beginning to feel comfortable in their new world, but they were still under the rule of the King of England, and he was making their lives miserable. They were ordered to fight England's wars and pay for them with heavy taxes under unjust laws. These demands became so unbearable and intolerable that the colonists began to rebel against the king. Let's look in on the colonists now as they mock the King of England.
Here you go, Your Majesty.
Your
must have on their minds tonight.
What?
What is it you want now? Always complaining about something, aren't you? Can't you see that I make all the decisions for you? For I am the king. And you will say, yes, your majesty, to everything that I tell you.
It's no, your majesty!
It's war, your majesty! A revolution, your majesty! Yes, your majesty! The answer is war!
And war it shall be!
Oh, that's it!
The air was supercharged with the buzz and the fever of revolution. People could smell it in the air. They could feel it in their bones. It was Patrick Henry who ignited that spark as he spoke these famous words to the Virginia representatives.
Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace. But there is no peace. The war has already begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here, idle? What is it that men wish? What is it that they would have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, has to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God! I know not what course others may take. But as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
The colonists were ready for war. A few brave men warned the Minutemen of Lexington and Concord that the British were coming.
Round, children, come and gather round and hear the story of Paul Revere. Oh, someone's excited. Come, little Gwen. Come. Come, children, come hear the story of Paul Revere. Oh, do you want to come and hear? Oh, it's your freedom. It's your country. Come hear the story of Paul Revere. Come, children, come. And older ones, too. You're more than welcome, more than welcome. Young and old, this is a story worth a telling. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, if the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. 1, if by land, and 2, if by sea. And I, on the opposite shore, will be ready to ride and spread the alarm to every Middlesex village and farm for the country folk to be up and to arm. The fate of a nation was riding that night, and a spark struck out by that steed in his flight. Now you know the rest of the story from the books you have read, how those British regulars fired and fled. And now this story will be echoed forevermore upon each housetop and through each open door, and the people will awaken to listen and to hear of the midnight message of Paul Revere. Listen, can you hear the hoofbeats across the land? Can you hear the whinnying of the horse? Are you ready to ride with Paul Revere? Come on then, grab your horse, let's go. Midnight approaches. They saw 2 lanterns in the North Church Tower. Ride, they knew this was to be the fateful hour. Ride, for a man to ride and to alarm every village and everyone, to awaken them and call to arms. Was the ride of Paul Revere. Giddy up, men! Ride, go the night. Ride, till the truth be told.
By July 1776, the colonists were still under the rule of the king. There was a lot at stake. Declaring independence was a very serious matter. For under English law, if they opposed the king, they would be treated as traitors. If they joined the rebels, they risked not only their own lives, but also the lives of their families. The colonists sent representatives to the Continental Congress to discuss independence from Great Britain. The colonies needed to be unanimous in their decision to adopt the resolution to declare independence. These were very wise men with great character, and they knew all that they stood to lose. And knowing all this, they mutually pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. They chose to declare independence.
Sink or swim, live or die, survive or perish. I give my hand and heart to this vote. There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Why then should we defer the declaration? We may not live to the time when this declaration shall be made good, but it will stand. It may cost treasure and it may cost blood, but it will stand. And it will richly compensate for both.
These words will go forth when our bones are dust. To the slave in bondage, they'll speak hope. To the mechanic in its workshop, freedom. That parchment will speak the kings in a language sad and terrible as the trumpet of the archangel. You have trampled on the rights of mankind long enough. At last, the voice of human woe has pierced the ear of God and called his judgment down.
Sign. If the next moment the gibbet's rope be around your neck.
Sign!
Or if the next moment this hall rings with the echo of the falling axe.
Sign! As husbands, fathers, as men with our names to the parchment will be accursed forever.
Sign, not only for yourselves, but for all ages. For that parchment will be the textbook of freedom, the Bible of the rights of man forever.
Father! Father, the old world is baptized in blood. Father, it is drenched with the blood of millions who have been executed in slow and grinding oppression. Yes. Were my soul trembling on the wings of eternity, with its hand freezing to death, were my voice choking with the last struggle, I would still, with the last gasp of my voice, beg of you to sign this declaration and implore you to remember this truth. God himself has decreed that America is to be free of oppression.
Come, gentlemen. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government. Gentlemen, today we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. This is the moment we have waited for. This is the moment. This is the day when I sent all my doubts and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have made ever is coming into play, is here and now today.
This is the moment, this is the time when the momentum and the moment written rhyme. Give me this moment, this precious chance. I'll gather up my past and make some sense at last. This is the moment when are we done? All of the dreaming, scheming and screaming become one. This is the day, see it sparkle and shine.
When all I've lived for becomes mine. For all these years I faced the world alone,
And now the time has come to prove to them we've made it on our own. This is the moment, our final test. Destiny beckoned, I never reckoned second best.
I won't look down.
I must not fall. This is the moment, the sweetest moment of them all. This is the moment we face the odds. This day or never, we'll sing forever with our God. When we look back, we will always recall, moment for moment, this was the moment, the sweetest moment of them all.
America was now a new nation. But freedom is never free. On the very day the Declaration was signed, England's own General Howe sailed into New York Harbor with the largest armada ever assembled. This was going to be a fight to the bitter end. We needed George Washington to lead us to victory. But after losing 5 important battles in New York and being chased all over New Jersey, Washington's men were a pathetic sight when he positioned them on the west side of the Delaware. The brutal Hessian mercenaries kept an eye on them from Trenton. The turning point of the war was found in the heart of Washington himself when he read Tom Paine's crisis letter, number 1.
These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered.
In our day, we need more heroes. Someone to lead us through our trials. Someone to show us how it's done. Someone like George Washington.
Come on, everybody. We're going to talk about the founder of our country, our first general, our first president, and the man to whom we owe so much. So put your hands together and clap along. You know who I'm talking about.
George Washington.
Let's talk about George Washington. His love of country and sense of duty were matched by no man. He was a great man of war, and every soldier looked up to him with great trust. He had absolute courage and determination in every good cause. He was the most respected man in America, and should be today.
Yes, he should. Three cheers for Washington. Hip, hip, hooray.
By 1776, the Continental Army had lost nearly every major battle. The Hessians were coming on strong and they were starving, freezing, had rags on their feet, and were on the verge of defeat. George made his next move, and he did what any great leader would do.
What's that?
He attacked the enemy!
Let's get those Hessians!
George Washington. He is the one to keep us free from tyranny. Just wait and see.
Come on. Let's go. Everybody row. 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 Come on, let's go. Through the ice and snow. It's getting hard to row. Don't you know? It's a real tough go. Oh no, oh no. Oh
Settle
no,
down,
oh,
men, settle
no.
down.
Oh no.
I know God is with us, so pray with me tonight. Oh, dear God, oh, what should we do? We must save our country, but we need help from you. Oh, please help us through this terrible night. Can we ask for anything more?
We're hungry. We're cold. This is war. George goes after Tesla. By surprise, attacking the Lord. Now they're on the run. They took George Washington.
We're on today!
Come on, men, let's build a barricade. Ready? Fire one. Fire two. Fire three. Let's get those Hessians!
America's #1 son. He is the one to keep us free from tyranny.
Even though the war was won, England was still breathing down the necks of America and would not let go. America was once again at war, the War of 1812. To break the will of the American people, England bombarded Fort McHenry. However, Americans still stood strong and were willing to once again die for their freedom. Both sides had captured prisoners. Francis Scott Key was appointed to negotiate the release of the prisoners.
Men, I've got great news. Tonight, you're free!
Not so fast, Mr. Keith. What a luck. You know too much, and plans have changed. We will be attacking Fort McHenry tonight. You see, the Americans must either lay down the colors of their flag, or we will destroy the fort.
You can't show that fort. You have no justification for this war.
We don't need justification for this war, Mr. Key. And we have informed your people that if they will lay down the colors of that flag, we will cease the bombardment immediately. And then Fort McHenry will then be under British hands.
Fort McHenry was within striking distance of the British ships.
How many ships are there?
I count 16.
Mr. Key, tell us, where is the flag?
Is the flag still flying over the rampart?
Every time the bombs would explode near the flag, Francis Scott Key could see the flag illuminated in the red glare of the bomb.
Please, God, keep that flag flying.
During the bombardment, the flag had suffered many direct hits, but it never fell. While on the ship that morning, Francis Scott Key penned these words.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Then conquer we must when our cause it is just, and this be our motto: in God is our trust, and the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The victory of that day renewed the Americans' faith that God would be their protector through any peril. And our flag still flies triumphantly today.
Sound of a distant drummer, I hear trumpets call. I hear the tramp of bandsmen marching, stirring my heart and soul. I hear the stars and stripes forever, I hear the cymbals crash, leading the way in the grand parade. I thrill to my country's flag. I love, oh glory, in her I see the hopes of all men who would be free. I love, oh glory, long
patriots brave. I hear the roar of the cannonball, the honoring one so brave. God rest the soul of the valiant soldier, willing to die for truth. Carry him now to a hero's breast, draped in the red, white, and blue. My love, oh glory, in her I see the hopes of all men who would be free. My love, oh glory, long may she wave over America, the land of the
I love, oh glory.
The cries of freedom continued throughout the land for nearly 100 years after America declared that all men are created equal. The black man in America struggled under the bonds of slavery. Their cries were expressed through their songs and prayers. After a terrible civil war and several amendments to the Constitution, they would be set free from oppression. The rights of all men were acknowledged in Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, when he said, "With malice toward none, with charity towards all, let us strive on for lasting peace." And America's message of freedom spread fast throughout the world. The downtrodden people from every country came by the thousands seeking a better life. It was the hope of all men to live together as a family, to build a legacy of opportunity, to own a piece of land, a home, and maybe even a business. They just wanted a better life. And when they saw the Statue of Liberty, they knew they had come to the right place. There she stood, with her crown of 7 spikes, shining forth and inviting the 7 continents of 7 seas to the world to come to the land of the free. Clutched in her arm were the tables of law, inscripted with the date 1776, signifying the Declaration of Independence, which formed the first nation of a truly free people. At her feet was the broken chain of tyranny that had dominated the history of the entire world until the birth of America. And in her uplifted arm rose the glowing torch, offering the light of hope to those living in a darkened world of oppression. Tears streamed down the immigrants' faces as they fell on bended knees, for they knew they had found their home at last.
While the storm clouds gather far across the seas, let us pledge allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with love. God bless America, my home sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies
America is truly our home sweet home, but the fabric of family life becomes frayed and torn during wartime. For this reason, we long for the day when our troops come home from war. We cherish those beloved sons and daughters of America who continue to fight for the cause of freedom. In the words of an American soldier, I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. Let us all become guardians of this freedom, to uphold that which is most dear to us: God, family, country. May we do as Colonel Gale Halverson, also known as the Candy Bomber, when he, as a guardian of freedom, brought joy and happiness to the German children during a very ugly time at the end of World War II. He was a true freedom fighter. Our cause of fighting freedom is not going to be easy. It will cost blood and it will cost treasure. But we will conquer all foes and give all glory to our God. We will never accept defeat, and we will never quit.
Stand has come at last. Let the drums start the long, long roll. The bridge is burned, the die is cast. To his grace I commend my soul.
For the glory, for the Dixie that I know, for the way of life we cherish. Let us die or let us go for the glory, for the home we hold so dear. Let us hear the last full measure gathered here for the glory.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is only the beginning of America's story. In America, we all share in protecting and upholding freedom, and it is our responsibility to finish writing this story. The sacred document here is the Declaration of Independence. It is the foundation of a good government. This sacred document, the Constitution of the United States, is the supreme law of this land. May we uphold both of these documents forever to the laying down of our lives. Freedom and independence will go forth to American hearts like the very voice of God, and our work will not be done until all men are equally privileged with the blessings of liberty. United we stand, however divided, and we will fall. And may God continue to bless these United States of America.
Go out and tell our story to our daughters and your sons.
Make them hear you. Make them hear you.
And tell them in our struggles we were not the only ones.
Make them hear you. Make them hear you.
And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white.
I could not put down my sword when justice was my right.
Make them hear you. Go out and tell our story. Let our devil far and wide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Wherever freedom threatens you, the power to turn the tide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you.
Your sword can be a sermon on the power of the pen.
If every time to raise his voice and let my brothers stand. Will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men? May